Good morning, everyone. This is Jenni Walke from Elephant Room Consulting and Carly Mowbray Allen from Hello Media, and you're tuning into Bite Size Business, the live podcast and show that helps small business owners get clarity and insight to grow their dream business. Whether you're just launching or ready to scale or figuring out what's next, we discuss the nitty-gritty, the hard bits, the opportunities, and the behind the scenes, and share how you can use digital to grow your own companies. And we're so glad that you're joining us today on Friday. And Kylie, it's so nice to see you.
So nice to see you, Jenny, and it's nearly your birthday.
No, birthday week starts Sunday, which is the day of my birthday. I know. And I'm excited because I'm starting the week with a beautiful long lunch and I'm finishing the week with friends over for a little extravaganza.
Beautiful. I'm very excited about making the trip to Brisbane and having a little hosting with some bubbles with you.
Definitely. There'll be definitely some bubbles. And not only are we're excited because the house is, first year in the house, first birthday in the new house. And so we're really excited. And if it's a hot day, we have the fabulous pool. So it's going to be lots of fun.
Has it been super hot? It was 39 here yesterday.
It was the same here yesterday, hottest day in Brisbane in 3 years, which is outstanding because it's the day we got air conditioning put in. So the morning was terrible, but the afternoon, I'm sitting in glorious air conditioning. So my office now is a beautiful 20 degrees and perfect for me to be working today.
So good. I was at two different events yesterday. One was up on a hill with this beautiful breeze on this glorious property. And then the other one was in town in a restaurant, extremely hot. There was a huge air conditioning on the wall that was broken. And so it just makes it so hard to think and so hard to function and focus when your brain is that hot.
I found that too. And I was sitting here on a Zoom, I think it was on calls on Wednesday morning, and I had like 4 back to back. And I got up after sitting because we didn't have air conditioning on Wednesday. And I was so hot. I realized that I'd been like, my face is red and I'd sort of probably been dripping sweat while on these calls. And I was like, wow, so glad these are internal calls and not public calls, because it was so hot. It was ridiculous.
So bad, isn't it?
It was
so bad.
But I guess that's the time now, isn't it? We're at the point now where we're starting to get those hot days and summer is really upon us now.
Yes, it sure is. And it's a perfect thing that we talk about the weather, because our topic today is accessibility. And as you know, and as many of the people that tune in and listen know, my husband is a quadriplegic and he is unable to regulate his body temperature. So that means if he gets overheated, he will die. So it's really full on. So even just accessibility in terms of what are his options? How does he function? How does he survive through summer? Well, clearly he has an incredibly difficult time. But I want to do a shout out to our local bottle shop, the Bangalore, it's called the Cellar Bottle Shop in Bangalore, and independently owned, of course, which is nice. But they have a big giant cool room at 3 degrees, and they have a special space that my husband can wheel himself into, and he can sit in there. It takes around 45 minutes for his core temperature to come down, and he sits in there in 3 degrees, and he does it at least 2 or 3 times a day through the whole of summer. So he is very much ruled by keeping himself cool enough to cope living. It's very, very intense. And there you go, accessibility. So when we went to that event last night and the aircon was broken, so luckily it was only a few doors away from the bottle shop. So he left the dinner at least 4 times and raced off to the bottle shop so he could survive. So yeah, interesting, isn't it? People don't think about all these little things that people that need a little bit extra support.
No, and it does beg the question, is we only, and we have these conversations all the time, right? We only see the world through our lens. We don't often consider the other way, the way other people are viewing us and what we do and the way that we show up in the world. So I think that's a really beautiful example of, the seller has gone, oh, we can help and we can provide a service and we can, provide a support to him that is, a byproduct of them just being a really great local community business. And I think there's that kind of, we talked last week about why we support small businesses and local businesses. And that's really the example. If you had a big box store replace the seller down there, you wouldn't get that service. It'd be, I'm sorry, you can't. There'd be OH&S plus, there'd be a whole range of reasons why they couldn't. but they've actually accommodated that need. And I love that for him and for you, because it does take that stress off, doesn't it? And it makes it easy, and it changes the way that he views that business and also the community.
And we have aircon in our bedroom, but we can't get lower than 16 degrees. And that's not enough when he's overheating to help him out. There's also our local bolo has aircon, the pub has aircon, but aside from that, he can't get into any of the shops. So he's really, really limited. So that cool room, they literally change his life, with what they offer there. And you did right. If that was a big box bottle shop that owned that now, then yeah, they would be looking at that floor space that he takes up as opportunity to stock more beer in there. So yeah.
100%. Wow. So accessibility is a funny concept though, isn't it? Because we do think, we think about it in lots of different ways. If you're in the web world, accessibility is around website access, text, alt text, color, colors on your website, the way that you are kind of contrasting for people who have low vision or sound impaired, all those things. That's what accessibility means in a digital sense. How do you talk to accessibility with your clients?
Well, it's a really interesting one. I'll even just say on a personal note, I find frustration a lot, because for starters, I'm hearing impaired. I wear hearing aids, I lip read a lot, etc. So one of the first things is I always will say is, please have your camera on, because I'm lip reading. And I find that really frustrating when they're unable to do that. So whether they're in a masterclass or whatever, and I know a lot of people really have discomfort around showing up in that way, but I have discomfort when I can't understand them. Yeah. So, that's a really interesting one, isn't it? I also have people that prefer to be on the phone rather than on Zoom. They're like, oh, I'm avoiding Zoom now. The pandemic's over, so I just want to be on the phone. And I'm like, no, actually though, the phone, my hearing aids do not always Bluetooth to my phone. And I've just got new ones just recently, so they do, but not always. So that's also really, really frustrating. So if I say, due to my hearing impairment, please can we Zoom? I really just like that respect in a way for them to say, yeah, sure, no problem. So even regardless of my clients, for me, it's really important that accessibility is acknowledged and respected, I guess. When it comes to my clients, I think the majority of obviously they know the scenario with my husband. I'm always straight up about my hearing. And so luckily it means that they already would open up about a family member or a friend that they know with some kind of a disability. So it's nice that it opens up that conversation right from the very beginning. And I think that I'd say pretty much 100% of them are really open to learning to do things differently. So in terms of color contrast for vision impairment, in terms of all kinds of different things, they're really just open to that, which I just feel really happy about. There are a few that still insist on a colored background on their website, like, whether that's a pink or a green or something, which, isn't necessarily a huge problem. But then, is the contrasting text color strong enough? Is the font size big enough? Is it just really light and whimsical, or is it bold and really clear to read? So, and that's not even for people with disabilities. That's for people over 40 that need a little help with the reading.
Yes.
So I feel lucky, I guess, that I'm able to open up that conversation right from the beginning and make people just start thinking of things perhaps in a slightly different way.
Yeah, and I think that, we did a check on our website this week, and there are some issues with us in terms of accessibility, and we've been looking at it over time, and we're like you, building a kind of a revised website. So it's that kind of catch-22 of updating the current one versus making sure the new one is compliant. And it's really hard though, it can be really hard. So I've got a red logo. I've got a logo with red and gray as a contrast color. And the logo is really important to me, and the colors are really important to me. And so we're looking at how do we change our logo to enable that that contrast issue not to be, because obviously we draw our business colors from that, but yet gray to red ratio, the contrast isn't ideal. And we know that. And so we're saying, well, how do we now go about changing that without rebranding completely and changing our entire color palette, which we could do, but do we want to do that? So what it's doing for us is making us ask a series of questions about where do we want, what is the impact of us and what do we need to change to ensure that we're having the most reach and making sure we're hitting those, providing opportunity for anybody to be able to really interact with our website.
I think it's so beautiful that you're even looking at that, really, like there's so many people out there that are more about the aesthetics of something than they are actually about the usability of it or the accessibility of it.
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome. But you could literally do the tweak in the similar way that we're doing, is just literally just the charcoal, tweaking it to black.
Yeah.
So that feels like a really simple one without a full rebrand or anything, which is good. I think the bigger problem is that if you had a red background with gray writing, or even in this course I was in this morning, she had a landing page that was like purple and blue with white writing. And she said, a lot of people love this. They really love the dark color with the white writing. And I'm like,
do they?
Not for me, not for me. I'm not a big fan of that. And I know that it's quite trendy having the black background with the white writing, but that can become quite blurry for people with vision impairment. And again, I shouldn't say again, because I haven't said it before, but I really want to make it really clear. I'm not ever thinking that I'm speaking on behalf of all people with a disability. Like I'm literally, and not even all people with a hearing impairment, I'm only speaking on behalf of myself.
But again, it's recognition that you are one of a group of people, and if it's an issue for you, then it's going to be an issue for other people. And I think that's the lens that we want to talk that we're looking at, is saying that we've recognized that there's a challenge. We know that, and it's also for us to say, hey, we know that our website isn't as accessible as it could be. We recognize that we do have our call links, and we have all that information is easy to find and clearly identifiable, and our buttons are really clear about this is what you click on this button for this reason. But there are things that I know you've talked about a lot. Our alt text isn't across our whole site, and we need to do that. And knowing this though, and being open about saying, I'm a business consultant, but I know still I may not have time to do that. So having that conversation, being really open about the things that we need to do and how we can constantly improve, I think is about saying we recognize the need. So let's just find a way to move towards that, so that we can, as you said, start to consider other people.
Absolutely. And that's what you've said, move towards it, is absolutely perfect, what you just said. I just want to mention a couple of things that I'll put in the comments a little after we're finished. And one of them is that there's been a whole big shift in inclusive marketing, it's called, with Google. And so they've written some really incredible playbooks and things. So, for example, I was reading this really beautiful article the other day. It's called Why Inclusive Marketing Means Accessible Marketing. And of course, it talks about the disability community being really underrepresented and undervalued in advertising, etc. So anyway, fabulous article. So I'll share that one. But also there has been it's a playbook on accessible marketing, and which is well and truly worth looking at. And three major things are: nothing about us without us, account for intersectionality, and accessibility is a mindset, not a box to check, which I just think is a little bit of fabulousness there.
I love that.
I've been writing this blog about it, and so hopefully it'll be live in a couple of hours. And then it will link to all these different places that I've read some really amazing stuff about. So yeah, I'm thrilled that certainly things are moving in that way. And I had mentioned last week, and I want to say it again, that Google are prioritizing websites and blogs, of course, and all of that are optimized for accessibility. So that means really getting that alt text right, really making sure that those words are clear and easily able to be read, not point size 10 in a whimsical font, So yeah, that's so important. But it's not just about your alt text, for example. And also, when you're thinking about alt text, a lot of people just think it's because of the readers that read it out to you, that AI stuff for people with vision impairment. But it's also for people with dyslexia or any kind of reading impairment. That's really important to have that in there. but also captions for videos is something really important to think about. So when I'm teaching reels and stuff, I remind people, try and not put any kind of text at all in your reels above the halfway mark, because when people have their captions on, that's up there, and then all the other bits are down the bottom, like the audio and all that. So it's really important, and your caption and stuff like that. So making sure that you've only got text in the top half of your reel, and because so many people, like me for one, always has captions on. And then another one, which I have to say I've only recently found out about, and that is about hashtags in something called camel case. So I had to do a lot of research on that in the last few weeks, because one of my clients brought it to my attention and said, we've noticed that there's no camel case going on with your hashtags. And I was thinking, first of all, well, who really reads hashtags? But actually, people do. And more to the point, just because some people don't read hashtags, it doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to. So I'm changing everything now so that all of my hashtags have a capital letter at the beginning of each word. Now, there's a few things that...
So camel case is where you distinguish each word with a capital. For those who don't know what camel case is, it's distinguishing each word with a capital. So if I was going to do elephant in the room, you're going to do hello media, the H and the M would be capital, and the EITR would be capital.
Yes. So for example, hashtag social media is life. The S, the M, the I, and the L would be uppercase, which is really interesting. So hashtag social media is life, just written out as we've always done it, is kind of not that reader friendly for anyone anyway, but we're used to reading things like that. But putting those capitals in is so important. And if you think of words like iPhone, that's a little I and then a capital P. So it makes it easier to read. So yeah, I think that's a good one. And then another one that I thought was really super interesting in terms of accessibility is to try and not use too many emojis in a row. Now, I talk a lot about emojis because I'm emoji addicted, obsessed, but when you think about a reader reading an AI reader reading out what the emoji is, so for example, it will say laughing emoji with tears, or laughing emoji with heart eyes. Now, if you've put 5 different emojis in a row, how annoying for the person just trying to hear what it is that sentence says, is that it will say surfer dude on a surfboard with a wave, followed by...
I never thought about that until you said that, of course.
With a smiley face, followed by smiley face emoji with laughing tears, followed by pig face, followed by dog paw. Like, it's too much.
I'd never thought about it until you just said that.
Doesn't mean you shouldn't use emojis, because we love emojis. And what's so good about emojis is that they actually give you such a good idea of what's going on. So that's really important. And it gives you a vibe, it gives you a feel, it gives you a whole lot more than just straight written text. But putting too many different ones in a row, or just too many in a row, is not very accessibility friendly.
And that's a very good thing to know. I'd never thought of that, but now you've said that, I was like, okay, I can see that now. I can see that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. And so it's funny because you talk about, I mean, you're in the digital marketing space. I mean, we're both business coaches. We both help our clients grow their business and get clarity around what they're doing. And often when I'm talking about business models, we look at accessibility from the sense of what is your business model for you and for your clients, and being able to engage with you. How open are you, and how are you actually getting people to actually see and connect with you, and what is the best way for them to do that? So I always think about, if you're a product-based business, for a lot of people, they want to be able to access that anywhere in the world. So having a web store, having an e-shop or e-commerce store is so important, because that allows them to get your product when they want it, how they want it, versus someone who might be selling something a bit more kind of luxury, or perhaps costly, like furniture or something. Like, people are not necessarily going to buy that online. They want to come and touch and feel it. So when I see stores that are selling things like furniture and large items that are tactile in nature, that I can't come and touch and sit on and feel, I go, well, actually, you're actually cutting a hole part of your market out, because you're not giving them the opportunity to come and see and engage with you and access your product in the way that they want to access your product. You're thinking about, well, it's easy for me to put it online. I don't care if they can sit on it. If it's uncomfortable, meh. Whereas that other way of thinking, how do I actually set my business up so that I can get my clients and my potential customers to actually connect with me, and so that my business becomes accessible to them from that physical sense, or the way that we engage.
Yes, such a good point. It's also so important to think about people's how they can make returns. So that, you know, online selling is so massive these days. But what happened? How do people contact you? Have you got an easy contact us page, for example? Is it easy for people to phone you? Is it easy? You know, there's so many things that we need to think about. I've bought a lot of things recently online because of these. I've had 3 different awards ceremonies to go to in the last 5 weeks. So, you know, I was getting things sent to me because where I live, there's literally zilch options in a tiny village. So I've had it all sent to me. And then I don't always immediately send it straight back if it's not okay. And then all of a sudden I realized that these 2 pairs of shoes that I'd bought, my 14-day returns thing was over. I mean, I was still even just thinking about it, you know, at that point. So, and they didn't fit anyway. So I should have got in touch, but I was busy. So now they say, okay, you can change for something else, but there's nothing else. And so where's that accessibility? You know, like that's just super frustrating. So yeah, I think making sure that you're thinking about who is your audience, how are they interacting with you, and what do they want from you?
Yeah, and that's the point. It's thinking about your client. It's not thinking about what you want to do always, because we know we don't exist without our customers. We do not exist as an entity unless somebody wants to purchase whatever we're selling. So it's not about us ultimately. It's about the customer and how they can connect with us. And so often I see so many businesses going, but this is what I want to do. So I want it to look like this because it's what I like, and it's a color I like, or it's a process that I like, or whatever it might be. And that's all well and good. But if you want to have customers who actually want to engage with you, then you need to make it about them. So whether you're in, you know, as you said, I mean, I've got my frustration at the moment with returns for customers. Companies are saying, oh, by the way, it's a $6.50 restocking fee. And you're like, really? So you're getting, and then you look at something like the Iconic, which makes a business out of basically you purchase as much as you want, and whatever you don't want, send it back and we'll give you a store credit, or we'll refund you the money. There's no charge, there's no restocking fee. So I love that idea that they're making it easy for you to shop and buy probably too much, that things that you don't need, because they probably know, one, only 50% of people will actually get it back on time. So then they won't actually, you know, because they just won't do it, and they end up giving it to a friend or a family member. But 2, if it means that you buy more at that time. So I'm going to buy more right now and it doesn't fit. So therefore I'm actually going to, I can return it. And I used to kind of think, oh, I don't like that. But having purchased some things off things like the Iconic and other similar stores, it makes it so easy for me to try things on in a space that I'm comfortable, and to see if it's going to fit. And if it doesn't fit, I can just return it. And so that's, they're thinking about our experience, but also the benefit for them is, you know, from a financial perspective, they're getting that money in the bank today. Yes, it might be returned, but there's a cycle going on there, right? People rarely return everything. Always said it's out of date, out of your return cycle, but they have a fairly generous 30 days, I think. And you can email them saying, I'm so close to the date. And they're like, yeah, it's okay. Like they're really, because they recognize the customer experience is so important.
It's so important. That's why I'm a big fan of Bird's Nest, and I know I talk about them a lot, but they have a 12-month return policy, and it is insane and so good. But what I absolutely love is that you can pay for a change room upgrade, which I do every single time, and it's $9 or $10, and they send you with your stuff that you're buying a satchel already ready to go to send it back to them. So that's awesome. And often I actually don't use it, and then I can just, you know, use it for the next time or something. But it's very, very clever. And you're right, it makes you buy more stuff, which is clever. However, one thing to keep in mind, especially when you mention something like the Iconic, is they're huge. So what about the small businesses that are absolutely crippled by people saying, I want free returns? And so you imagine that they already are struggling with people want free shipping these days. So that's already, you know, problematic. So then if they've had a sale on and they've offered something at, say, 20% off, or they've done free shipping, they're already out of pocket. Then you say that you want to return the item and you don't want to pay for it to be returned, then you're out of pocket again, and you've potentially actually just operated at a loss, not even made a single penny.
Well, I think it depends. Like I know there's a couple of stores that kind of mid-range arrangement, and I think it depends on the client. I think if you're buying something on sale, particularly online, there's kind of a buyer beware concept there, right? I bought it on sale, and particularly if it is on a heavily discounted, you can say there's no returns on sales, and I've got a lot of the smaller stores do that, and I completely understand that, because it's the end of stock and the cost associated with that. Because it is on sale, if you return it, they can't resell. They're less likely to resell it because it's at that back end of the sale. But I think it's about being transparent about that, right? So I found out about a $6.50 return fee after I'd done the return. So it wasn't transparent up front. So it's about that being that, I guess, as a company saying, well, what is the process? We can say, we love the fact that, you want to buy our stuff, and if it doesn't fit, we totally understand it. And there might be a fee, but to bury it into the returns terms page where you can't actually find it and see it makes it feel like, why hide it? Just be open about it. And I think that's about that transparency piece, because I would say, cool, you're a small store. I've just done it actually with buying some sunglasses. I can never buy sunglasses. And it basically says, look, we're more than happy for you to purchase and buy them, because their sunglasses are a really low price. And it's $6.50 if you want to exchange them. But for me, the convenience of that, I go, I'm okay with that, because I don't want to have to stand in a store and try on 25 pairs of glasses, because I just can never find any. So I found 3 that I kind of liked, that I thought would work. I purchased them, and I know one of them doesn't really sit. So I'll return that one. And I know up front it's a $6.50 fee. But the glasses were $80 a pair. So, and they're polarized, and they're really great glasses, and they're high quality. But I'm aware of it. So therefore I'm comfortable with that. And I'm not annoyed that there's a return fee. So I think it's about, as a company, we have to really think about that user experience, the end to end, because that's what makes people feel comfortable. And that's really what accessibility is about, isn't it? It's not just about saying we're trying to make it for people with a disability or people who have hearing impaired or other activities. It's actually about making it the experience great for everybody, regardless of who you are. And so that's how I like to think of accessibility. It's not just about people who may have, as I said, hearing impaired or, issues, movement or whatever it might be. It's everybody needs the opportunity to have, be able to engage with you in the way that they
experience.
Absolutely.
Yes, we all need to have the same experience. But one thing I just want to mention is that 15% of the world's population has some form of disability, which is pretty extraordinary. That's pretty high. So, the nothing about us without us, that really says that everybody needs to be included, and and that again is not just disability, that's also gender, that's everything. We all need to be included, and we all need to have a voice, and we all need to, what is
Definitely.
it? Yeah, I just think that's vital. So you did right. It's all of the things needs to be considered all of the time. We just need to be good humans, really, and consider other people.
Exactly. 100%. Now, next week, we're doing something a bit special for our potentially last event, which is actually, we're going to look at goal setting and reflecting on the year, and we're doing it at a different time next year. So stay tuned next week. So stay tuned on socials for the next couple of days. We'll let you know what time we're doing our final for the year, potentially bite size. And I'm excited because you and I are going to be in the same room to do it.
Yes, we're going to do it together in Brisbane. Woohoo!
Which I'm so excited about.
So we're going to try and work with you all on one big, fat, hairy, audacious goal that you can be looking at for next year, and how you can make sure that you start the year off right, really knowing the direction you should be moving in to get to that goal.
Exactly. So we think that's a conversation for us to do it together, because we were always going to do one of these together. And I think talking about BHAGs and big, hairy, audacious goals is definitely the one that we want to do in person. So stay tuned for details on that. But between now and next Friday, how can we get in touch with you, Kylie?
hellomedia.team, and I'll be putting in the comments all the links that I was talking about before about the new accessibility playbooks and stuff like that. But one thing I just want to say is make sure that you do what Jenni and I are doing right now, which is overhauling our website. Well, we're launching new websites and stuff. Mine won't be there till next year, but really optimizing that for accessibility, really thinking about those contact pages and all that, of making it easy for people in general. So I think that's just so important. And also remembering on social media, that accessibility piece with particularly the alt text on that too. So Jenni, what about you? How can people get in touch with you?
So best way to find me is at Elephant in the Room. That's on LinkedIn. So that's on Insta, LinkedIn, and Facebook, or our website, elephantintheroomau.com. Really excited that it's all aligned now. One of those changes we're making. But yeah, reach out to us. Insta's where we love to play, but messages, private messages, book a chat, and let's talk about how we can actually help you reach your goals for 2023.
Brilliant.
Cool.
I love it. Sounds good, Jenni. I look forward to catching up with you next week in person in Brisbane. So
sounds amazing. Have a great week, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
All right. Look forward to it. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.